Hey, Maria, back with another video. It's 8:33 a.m. May 26th, and I am just got up probably about an hour ago. And I'm sitting here in my pajamas, and it looks like it's one of those gray days today, so I'm pretty determined to stay in the house today. I just kind of want to stay inside and not do anything except for just kind of, engage in my little hobbies or whatever. And that's pretty much it. So, I don't think I've done a video probably maybe in 2 weeks, or maybe I did one last week. I don't know. But, you start to lose track of time. Every day starts to become the same day pretty much when you're on my little schedule here. But, I've been doing a lot of thinking, and, you know, I was mostly focused on how other people perceive me. And not that I don't believe that you should be concerned about how other people perceive you, because, you have your own life to live. Everybody has their own life to live. Everybody has their own desires, their needs, their wants, their goals, and they're very specific and they're very individualistic for each person. And that's just a no-brainer, okay? But, when people circulate things that are not true, that can damage a person, such as what this issue was going on with the whole Facebook issue, and then people jumping in and not even questioning, the 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 realistic how unrealistic it was to actually think that I had anything to do with what was going on, because what was being played out in front of their faces on a daily basis while I was at work, while I was coming home and everything, should have been a no-brainer. But yet these things continue to fuel, and then I obviously had expressed my resentment towards, these people involving themselves into something that was very important to me in my life, and the consequences that I'm feeling based off of something that I had nothing to do with. So this has been a dark cloud hanging over my head for a very long time, and it got even more intense as I started to realize exactly who was involved and the reasons why. And it's just very, it's very shocking to me to know that you can get swept up into something like this, and it can affect your life in the manner that it does, or it did, in this kind of manner, and you can't even give your consent as to what you're doing with your life, because other people are pulling the strings, and it's easy to deceive other people, as in the case of what these perps did to these employers, convincing them of my involvement with these people so that they could gain access to things that were mine. That is very devastating, and so that was one of the reasons why I felt it was so important to talk about the stalking issue, which I have seen, on employment forms, as I would say, in the last about the last year. People are putting them in their, I guess, employment packets. However, they're still not obviously following the rules, because all the interviews that I've gone on, where I've wasted my time completing these forms, they are indeed participating in it, just by the fact that they called me in. So I'm not interested in playing games with people. I don't want to. I don't want to play that into that game, because it's just basically these people are revealing themselves to be very corrupt, and I don't want that. I didn't ask for it. I don't know anything about why, out of the blue, just that people such as the Lyles family would decide to. I know that I wrote him back in 2008, but why they would feel compelled to involve themselves in my work and control it in the manner that they did obviously shows a very malicious intent on their part, especially seeing how none of these particular positions were within my field range, or even something in alignment with my goals for the future. So this to me is a hate crime, and I'm angry because, the rumor mills that got started when, it's not possible for any of that to have happened. So I really just kind of want to forget about what happened, and I'm trying to move on. And that's the biggest issue because, there's people, that I have encountered, at the job interviews and stuff that really don't seem to understand that they are participating in human trafficking and a form of harassment when they bring me into these interviews. I'm not interested in any of that, okay? I'm just a woman who basically wants to take care of herself, go to work, and take care of my own financial needs. That's what I mean by taking care of myself. I have my own ways of wanting to earn my money, and that's not having other people decide those sort of things for me is really, obviously, it's a violation of my rights, and it's insulting on very many levels, that somebody can actually pull those kind of strings, okay? So, I've been, thinking and collecting information, remembering things throughout this time, and, it really does start to get overwhelming. Like, it just, because it's just like, okay, I start forgetting about who did what, and then I have to keep putting it all together again because it is so mind-boggling, okay? And I'm glad that I made those videos because I've shared with you, some of the things that people have said in the past, the things that these people have done, and talked about what I was doing at the time, which is obviously nothing because Maria goes to work and comes home. But still, these things that were being played out in front of me, or comments that people would say, or little snide remarks here and there, it's like, wow, all of these things played a huge role in my targeting. And I don't want anything to do with the Laos family. And first of all, or any of the people that got involved in this. And I don't want people to think, well, you're alienating yourself from these particular people. I'm talking about Facebook people and people that I've known in the past who I've worked with. I'm not doing that. I'm basically trying to protect myself because these people shown themselves to be not trustworthy. Now, whether they got involved in it because they purposely wanted to sabotage and incriminate me on something that they knew, how is that possible? They knew that it wasn't possible for me to be involved in this. They knew I had nothing to do with this. I mean, the employers that got involved in this, how could they have possibly believed that? Especially if these people were monitoring my actions, and this stuff hit the street, and I was, my house was under surveillance at one time, and all this stuff. It seems as though some of these people who got involved in it were just doing it just to participate in a hate crime, and they got caught up with the group mentality. And it's not that, people generally would like to have people in their circle. They want to have, a network that they can trust. Now, I'm not the kind of person who wants to belong to a network so that people can decide my future. Because especially if they're deciding my future, that's not helping me at all, okay? But obviously, I would prefer a network to operate in the way that they're supposed to. Meaning, I look for a job, and if I list a particular employer as a reference, then that's the reference that I'm using. Meaning that particular potential employer that I'm interested in working for is going to contact my previous employer and say, okay, well, how long was she here, blah, 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 and let them know that I did my job and then I move on. That's the proper way of doing things, okay? And I'm not somebody who wants to seem like I'm rebellious because this is the way I want it to be. This is the way it's supposed to be, okay? And I know that these networks form, and I'm going to do a video on social networks or professional networks, because some of these networks are not working within your interests. Yes, you're in a network, but sometimes its network is not working towards your goals. They're working towards a goal that maybe they have themselves, or they're loaning you out to certain other employers that's not working, not even in any way working towards any of your particular goals. I would like to say that these people have wasted many years of my life. Many years of my life, okay? And directing me, trafficking me, moving me from one spot to another, doing things that were very damaging to me. And I consider the time that these people have taken out of my life. And so I have a right to be outraged, you know. Yesterday I was at the store and I saw a lady that I worked with. And, you know, as I turned the corner, I saw her and I was like, I turned around. I don't know if she saw me or not, but, you know, I figured I don't want to waste my time looking at this garbage, you know, and because I remember her attitude, you know. There was a girl at the workplace who started literally trying to intimidate me and what do you call it? She was harassing me at work. And so I called her out on it. I called her out on it because I knew she was bullying me. And I did so in a way to make it very clear that I understood that something was going on. I didn't quite understand the entire thing at the time, but I wanted to make it sure that I wanted to nip it in the bud and address it. Because when you deal with bullies, you have to nip it in the bud. And preferably, you know, you would like to do things in private, but when it comes to things that you're understanding what gang stalking is, or you're understanding that this is some sort of retaliation from what happened to me at the Murray's place, I realized, you know, I didn't know who was all involved at the time, but I knew this had something to do with, because she mentioned something about playing the race card. I was accused of playing the race card, which I wasn't playing the race card at all. And it's funny because when I left the Murray's place, I didn't say anything about what happened to me, to anybody, okay? So obviously this girl was just, you know, motivated or fueled by this inside group that was manipulating all the strings. So she was saying a bunch of stuff and I called her out on it. And I called her out on it in front of everybody because she was trying to do that to me. She was trying to make me feel uncomfortable. So this particular lady that I ran into yesterday at that time, during this confrontation, she was like, Maria, why are you doing that? And she was basically standing up for the girl. I believe her name was Chloe. She was standing up for this girl who was in the wrong from the get-go. And so it's funny how you see that these people continually put you in harassing situations, and when you stand up for yourself, they still want to take sides with the people who are in the wrong in the first place. So I don't have any respect for that. So you know, like I said, it's not that you want to isolate yourself to be rebellious. It's just that you can obviously see that certain people cannot be trusted. You can't trust them, you know, and no matter how much they say they're sorry, the damage is it's done. You know what I mean? To me, what happened to me is something that cannot be forgiven. It cannot be. It's just better for these people to like disintegrate into thin air in my mind so that I can move on. Because, you know, to me, I will never open myself up to that kind of abuse. I don't want to do it, you know? So it's not about me alienating myself or thinking that I don't need anyone in my life. People should have someone to turn to when they have some sort of problem or they need some sort of help. But these people have proved themselves to be unworthy. You know what I mean? They have proved themselves to be unworthy. So I can't take those chances. And then also, you know, I think about this bullshit of people coming into my life and posing to be credible people. And what only things that made them credible in the eyes of these employers, my previous employers, is because I think it has a lot to do with the race issue. You know, and this should be a valuable lesson. Don't trust people just because, don't judge a book by its cover. Just because they have the same skin color as you, same background as you, doesn't mean that they're honest. People work on an individual basis, regardless of what kind of affiliation people have. You know, like I've seen situations where people identify with a particular group and maybe somebody in that group screws up, you know, and then when that person that screws up, first they're all united, but when that person has to face the consequences, like maybe go to jail, go to prison, face some sort of harsh punishment for their erroneous crime, you'll watch and you will see how quickly those people will roll over on that other person because suddenly they want to distance themselves. So I always look at things on an individual basis, you know, and really I'm not telling people how to live, but it only makes sense to judge things based on case by case basis, because there's a lot of liars out there. A lot of liars out there. A lot of people who just want to do people harm and they get caught, or some people just do it because they want to be a part of the group, you know? And I take it that this girl, Chloe, just wanted to be a part of the group because obviously she had no knowledge of really anything that was going on. She knew that these people were involved in it, but I had nothing to do with Stephen Lyles. At the time, this was back in 2014, I had no idea he was even involved in it. At the time, I don't even think I knew my family. It was 2013. I'm sorry. It was 2013, I believe, when this happened. 2013, I was working over at the Flourishing Fart Place. And then at that point, I was thinking that this was strictly something that was done by my previous employer. I was thinking that the Murrays were involved in this at the time. Solely them. Obviously, they were involved, but I thought it was solely like some sort of retaliation for me leaving that company. Although I left on good terms and I didn't say a word about it. So all of these sort of things that were going on, and they were probably angry because I was being accused of playing the race card, because they were angry because I was being mistreated and being bullied at work. For, probably because of the issue relating to the Lyles person, and then also the issue relating to my hair. And then I know people would come in and start making comments about the food that I was eating. This has also happened over at the organized sports place. So, I left. And I never mentioned anything. I never said it was a racial issue. I never said anything. So when people accuse you of playing the race card, I will tell you that oftentimes when people accuse you of playing the race card, they themselves are playing the race card because it's a racially motivated issue. So anyway, venturing off that, all these years have been going on. And I'm just, I'm gaining more understanding as to what was going on. I know my family got involved in it. I know my family was involved in it. But at the time, at that particular time, while I was working at Flourishing Park, I had no idea that that my family was involved. I mean, I really didn't think that they were involved at the time. I definitely didn't think Facebook people were involved at the time. So it was mostly me thinking that I was being retaliated by Steve Murray and all these other people, so who were associated with that job. So I have been going from place to place, being trafficked, my life being sabotaged, and constantly, being harassed and belittled and everything else, for something I had nothing to do with. Nothing I had to do with. So I'm not trying to be an agitator in any way. I'm just trying to live my life, I got called out on Facebook, for something that I wrote to Stephen Lyles back in 2008. And I realized that since that point, these people must have been involved. When I did come to the understanding that the Lyles were involved, I kept thinking maybe they started in 2014 for some reason. But then I keep thinking, no, this probably started way back, because it wouldn't have happened at the Murray's place. Because I wasn't there in 2014. I was there from 2009 to 2013. So I understand how long this has been going on. And look how many years a person can take out of your life. And this is why I'm trying to, I know some people will never see the importance of why human trafficking should be discussed and why employers should take, preventative measures not to participate in this sort of stuff, okay? But it is very devastating in the life of a person who is a victim of it, and there's times some people have lived under this for many, many years. Like, I know the mobbings and stuff like that. My family would do this sort of shit to me for years, okay? And that was hard. And then when these people get involved, like the Lyles, I don't know these people that well, okay? I had a big crush on him when I was younger. But I don't really know this person, and they certainly shouldn't have any say or the ability to come in and manipulate strings the way that they did, and that's devastating to a person. It's extremely devastating to a person, because I can see how malicious this really was, the bullying and the people, the faces of the other people and their attitude. is basically they're working as a sound piece for probably Steven's mother, maybe Steven himself. I don't know. But whatever the case is, I don't want to deal with these people, and I shouldn't have to. I'm just somebody who is trying to get on with their life. And so anyway, I guess my biggest issue is that I'm not trying to be an agitator or acting like or showing a sign of arrogance because I've cut people off who created this sort of damage in my life. It is unnecessary. Sometimes you have to walk away from people. Sometimes you have to, regardless of whether or not they're sorry or whatever. Sometimes you just cannot look at these people anymore. And that if that brings healing to you, then that's what you have to do. I would rather not ever have to encounter these people ever again. And if I do, then I just either walk away. God forbid they make eye contact with me or say anything to me, because I will go off on them. And it's understandable. It's fully understandable, because you can't deal with this sort of thing for the duration that a person has dealt with it, and then expect everything to be, peachy keen, because it's not going to be that way. It just isn't. There's too many years that were taken from my life for me to just turn around and shrug my shoulders about it, So it's not about being an agitator or rebellious person or anything like that. It is for my own well-being. It is for my own well-being. So moving on, I'm taking the time to try to figure out how I'm going to start my job search, in what way I'm going to do it. I have to figure out how I'm going to get on with my life from this point. I'm just devastated that these people could come in and do what they've done and leave me in this situation. Like I said, they isolate you. They cause chaos and discord everywhere they go. And then they basically, like I said, throw you into a forest fire and give you a glass of water and tell you to try to get out. A lot of it is scapegoating, because, they don't want to fess up and say, oh, I did this shit. They did do this shit, okay? And they were negatively influenced by other people, who I don't even really know at this point. I don't know the people from high school, really. I don't, Obviously, the people who got involved really weren't my friends in the first place, I'll tell you that. But as an adult, you know these people when you're in high school, because you go to lunch with them or whatever, and you call them on the phone and you do teenage shit. But when real life situations come and you're laughing and joking with these people from the past, that's what they are. They're people that you had a good time with, but you can have good times with people who don't necessarily care about you. This kind of stuff happens all the time. And friendships really are a very rare thing. True friendships, okay? And that's just how it is, And I, as an adult, I fully understand that, But one thing I do resent is people, number one, trying to tell me how to live my life. If people have, constructive criticism because they feel as though it's a value, then the best way to do that is not throw it into a public platform. You literally say, look, Maria, I'm your friend. The reason why I'm telling you this is because ... Like, for example, bringing up the issue of my hair. And I would have told them, look, okay, I'm having hair issues, okay? And so when I was frequently changing my hairstyles, it was because I didn't have the understanding or knowledge of how to take care of my hair. And I still really don't, but this is my option now. And I'm content with the current hairstyle that I have, because I'm not searching for it anymore. I'm content. I'm stable. I have one hairstyle that I wear. Sometimes I might put a barrette in it, or sometimes I might wear a ponytail to give it a little bit of a variation. But for the most part, this is my hairstyle now. Now, in the previous years when these people were bitching about it, if they were to come up and ask me, I would have had this dialogue with them, and I would have explained to them, look, I'm losing hair. I'm having hair issues. I'm dealing with this kind of thing. I would have explained it to them if they were truly my friend, okay? But instead, you take this to a public platform. You make it all these people's business. To me, it's a no-brainer, okay? But it's not, shouldn't have been. It was done for attention. It was done to be a part of a group. It was done because for all other intentions and purposes, but not really to help me. It was more for some sort of one-upmanship, competition. I don't know what it was, but it was unwarranted and completely unappreciated by me, and I resent it, really. True friends will be there for you, and they will talk to you and nip it in the bud. They will not make this a public issue. They will not. Okay, so this was done as, to me, it's a hate crime, period. So I'm not interested in fake friends. I'm just not, and it's not about, and I would suggest everybody be like this, because most people aren't your friends. They're just not, they might be there for your, I'll be back with part two.